the world. So Seneca's first piece of advice is to be more pessimistic, to adjust our view of the world so as to be less surprised when reversals occur. And he urges us to bear something else in mind too. If we can accept that there's often nothing we can do about our frustrations, we'll be less likely to lose our rag when we encounter them.
Your indicator's on, mate. Your indicator.
Seneca believed that one of the reasons we get so angry is because we imagine that things should basically always go our way, that we should be able to make the world conform to our wishes. But actually we can't. There are many things that we just have to accept. We're often not free to change things. And in order to try and make us understand this, in order to try and bring this image home, Seneca came up with an unusual idea. He said that all of us are essentially rather like dogs, tied to the back of a moving chariot. Now the leash is just about long enough to give us some freedom, but it isn't long enough to allow us to move wherever we want. Now, the dog quickly realizes that in order to maximize its chances of happiness, it should at times follow the chariot, or in this case the bicycle if the budget was limited. So it's far better, essentially, to follow in a direction where you don't want to go than to kick against something that you can't change. Because then you'll end up not only going where you don't want to go, but also being strangled. But we do have one advantage over animals. We have reason and dogs don't. And this reason gives us a key advantage. It means that we can realize what we can change and what we can't. We may be unable to alter certain events, but we can always change our attitude towards those events. And it's this ability that Seneca believed gave us our distinctive form of freedom. Come on, Flora, necessity commands you to come this way. Come on, come on.
But Seneca isn't just useful for times when we're feeling furious. His philosophy offers us a way to stay calm and collected, whatever life may throw at us. You get a sense of the life Seneca would have led when you wander around the ancient Roman town of Pompeii. He was a rich man, and you might be tempted to imagine that he and his patrician contemporaries enjoyed an easy, untroubled existence. But read Seneca, and you realize how wrong that is. In the midst of luxury, the Roman rich was seething with fury. Seneca came to an interesting analysis of anger from looking at the people around him. He moved in the wealthiest circles in imperial Rome. Many of his friends had large villas in the countryside. They would have had retinues of slaves to prepare the food. There would have been long banquets lasting into the night. Guests would have been seated on gilded couches. Seneca noticed a surprising thing in the world around him, that being rich tended to make people angrier, not calmer. As he put it, prosperity fosters bad tempers. Seneca knew of a man called Vedius Pollio, a high imperial official who once hosted a party. And he had a slave who was carrying a tray of crystal glasses, and this unfortunate slave happened to trip on a piece of marble and dropped the tray of crystal glasses all over the floor. They shattered, and this so angered Vedius Pollio that he ordered the slave to be thrown alive into a pool of lampreys and consumed by these fierce creatures. Now, what was essentially going on in Seneca's analysis was that Vedius Pollio believed in a world in which glasses simply don't get broken. Seneca thought that the problem with rich people like Vedius was that their expectations were absurdly high. And that's as true of the rich today. Watch people at a first-class airline check-in desk, and you realize that people tend to shout more there than at the economy class counter. The wealthier you are, the more expectations you tend to have. And it's when expectations are dashed that fury breaks out. The rich believe their money will insulate them from setbacks and frustrations, and that's one of the absurdest expectations of all. Seneca's philosophy isn't only relevant to those of us who lose our tempers. He thought we all react badly to frustration, and so can all benefit from lowered expectations.
I'm hopeless in the morning. I set my alarm and then I endlessly keep pressing the snooze button. I've only got like 10 minutes to get up. So then I rush along, and down at the bus stop, usually kind of twitching, waiting for the bus to come along, because it never comes along. Of course it never comes along when you want to. Usually once I'm on the bus, I can relax to a certain extent, though there is always the traffic problem. And I'll sit there and probably read a manuscript. And then finally get into work and open my emails, look at the sales figures, and look at my diary, think, well, oh my God, I've got to do this or I've got to do that. That's how the day starts. Well, what kind of fiction planning meeting?
Venetia Butterfield is the marketing manager for a publishing company. She finds the stress of her job difficult to cope with. I wondered whether Seneca might help her too.
Okay, bye.
What's your average day like here?
Quite hectic, lots of meetings. Publishers tend to be kind of quite verbose. Authors phone up and they'll suddenly say, is this happening? And then you'll have to check up to see whether it is or not.
And what kind of things stress you out most?
Meetings that drag on.
Yeah.
Like someone will say, can we have a really quick meeting, and it'll only be half an hour, and then you're sitting there kind of twitching because it's taken an hour and a half, and you're thinking of all the things you've got to do. And
what do you do when you get particularly stressed? You know, when your desk is overflowing with papers,
yes,
as it seems to be now. What do you actually do to kind of?
What do I do? I run around and get bossy.
God. There could be one solution to all this. There might be one solution.
What could the solution be?
Well, our friend Sêneca.
Yeah.
He had this one idea that he says that what makes us most stressed out is things that take us by surprise. Most stressed, most angry, if a kind of problem